Yeah, what a what a failure of a grand opportunity to shine bright like a diamond. I guess, things have to always go through the grinder. They always have to go through the difficult way. My mother used to tell me when I was growing up, why do you always have to bump your head up why do you always have to bump your head up against a brick wall before you learn or understand? Okay, because maybe I was hard-headed. Probably that was the case, a little hard-headed. Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. Yeah, we all got some things we used to do when we were growing up that we're not proud of. Even as adults, that we've done that we're not proud of. All of us have those skeletons in our closet. So, it's not a perfect world, and that's just the way the world is. But with Donald Trump and this grand opportunity that he had to just even like hint at, righting the wrongs that have been, ingrained in American history towards Black African people. And Donald Trump has been embraced by, different African Americans. And I'm not saying that that is okay, the GO card to say, well, he's on code with us. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he has, like had he has had he has had conversations with uh, Kanye West. Um, he used to have the sister Amorosa, whatever her name was. Who else has he been like associated with? So probably, maybe I don't know all the Black people that Donald Trump has been associated with, but I know this much. We're both from New York, and I know that during the time when his father was a big real estate tycoon was during the time that my mother owned those properties, those two buildings there in the city of New York. And I know that his father was racist, and he ran into some issues with his racism and discriminating against Black people when it concerned housing in the city of New York. So this housing issue in the city of New York has been going on for many, 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 many moons. I want to say that, and I want to go on record confessing this, and I had it on my previous YouTube channel that was illegally taken down, but I'm going to say it here. I had a clip on my channel, making a joke about Donald Trump and something about immigration, and I don't know. I had used Jay-Z in there or something. I don't know. It was funny, but anyway, this is what I want to say. I actually didn't dislike Donald Trump. And at the time when he was up in, the presidency, it was a very heated time because we were dealing with some very serious aggressive behavior from the police force there in America, killing Black people like randomly every other day or every day. So tensions were high, and it wasn't really a time to express, like, oh, well, you know what, I don't think he's all that bad. He's not such a bad candidate. It could be worse. I actually liked the certain things about Donald Trump. I liked his courage. I liked the fact that, he's a native New Yorker. I like the fact that he speaks his mind. I really dug that about him because, that's how I am. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. And I think this is just for those who may not know, those of us who were born and raised in New York, that's something that we have. It's like a bond, like we've been bonded with that. We speak our mind. This is who we are. And many people around the Americas, around the United States, had a problem with us because we were like that. That's just how we were raised. We believed in speaking our mind. We believed in speaking up and speaking out as a New Yorker. So that's something that I was attracted to that I was attracted to with Donald Trump, and I know that many people around America may not have liked him because there is a lot of still deep rooted, it runs deep, family. Still waters run deep. There's a lot of deep rooted hatred and jealousy and envy with the North versus the South, or us Yankee people, as they like to allude and refer to us as, versus other people from other parts of America. These are things that people maybe over here in Africa don't understand, but we do understand in America. So those were the things that I liked about him, because I know, me coming from Brooklyn and going, through certain channels in my life on my journey, I ran into problems with haters because I was from New York. See, so those were the things that I dug about him, Yeah. I dug a lot of different things about him for different reasons. But what I did not like is the fact that he did not do more for our community. Primarily, he did not sign off, and send it through to all the different executive branches and put the stamp it, put the money, the check in the bank, okay? Okay, cutting the check. I didn't like that he didn't do that, and so, yeah. Um, I like the fact that, he had money coming in, and he basically knew who the players were, and he knew who he had to go up against or whatever, and he had connections already, and I don't know, there was just a few things about him that, I said, okay. Now, when he got in there and he did not do anything for black people, that bothered me, as it did many of us. It bothered me. It bothered me, as it did many of us. It bothered me. Um, and then, of course, then Joe Biden came in, and we already knew that that was a lost cause. So I want to go on record saying this to Donald Trump. I have a message. I have a message for you from our sacred divine African ancestors. Donald Trump, our ancestors want you to know that you've been given a pass. That when you become president again, if immediately you do not make it known that, number one, the grave genocidal injustices that were placed upon black African people in America, and even in the Middle Passage, and even those that were stolen from Africa. The genocide of black African people, the raping of black African people, the identity theft of black African people, the kidnapping of black African people, that, number one, the grave genocidal injustices that were placed upon Black African people in America and even in the Middle Passage, and even those that were stolen from Africa. I mean, literally, you're going to have to tell the story whichever way it's given to you to tell, but you will need to tell it, and you will need to tell the truth about it. And then at that point, you will need to let the world know that you and also Congress and the Supreme Court, whoever's involved in cutting these checks, are in the process of cutting the checks for Black African people effective immediately. In the trillions and 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 trillions of dollars that is owed to our sacred, divine Black African enslaved ancestors for chattel slavery, and the offsprings of those ancestors, we who are here generations later, and the institutionalized slavery we had to endure, the Jim Crowism, the civil rights movement, you name it, throw the book at it. This will be your immediate obligation. There will be no other issue that is more important than that one. If these things do not happen, I promise you that the dark days, America has never seen dark days like the ones that America will see. Actually, it will affect the whole world. Because, and I'm not saying this to be like a threat or to threaten or any of that. I'm not saying it in a threatening manner, although what will happen and what is to come, if reciprocity and restitution, reparations is not paid, is nothing nice that's going to come. You cannot skip over and pass over the crimes that have been committed. All of the land theft that was stolen, the commercial property that was stolen, the medical malpractices that happened, the genocide, the murdering of Black African people on American soil, the largest cemetery in the world, I believe. I want to go on record saying I think it's the largest in the world, the Atlantic Ocean, okay, and probably some parts of the Indian Ocean, and okay, so there would be no peace. There will be no peace on this earth until that debt is paid, Donald Trump. I believe in you. I believe that you have enough character, okay, and enough intelligence and enough diplomacy and enough morals to do what is morally right and what is morally correct, to bring about, to be the to assist, because in all actuality it is time for Mother Earth to cleanse the earth, and we are here cleansing the earth. We are saying and doing many different things, many of us who are chosen to do certain tasks in the cleanup, the massive cleanup that needs to happen worldwide. So we're sharing these things with you as a courtesy, so you don't have to sit and pick your brain about what to do and what you should do. This should be the first thing on your agenda, since you'll be there the second go around, after they tried to put you in jail for 400 years. Okay? So the 400 is significant with what we used to say before it became more than 400 all the time. Black people have been out of slavery or since slavery over 400 years. Okay, so we use that 400 years many decades now. We've used that saying 400 years, 400 years. So it's no coincidence that the 400 years that they want to give you to put you in prison, they picked that number because they know that that number is it. Most people know that that is a synonymous number with slavery and black African people. So I am here to tell you that the 400 meant, okay, it was used metaphorically and in a coded way, and I'm breaking the code for you to let you know that that is your cue to do what is morally, financially, physically, mentally right as it concerns black African people. If you choose a different route, that is your decision. You cannot say that you were not told or warned, that none of the queens talked about it, nobody brought it up, none of the goddess, none of the chosen, none of this one, none of that one. You will not be able to say that. But I assure you, according to what we are, the messages that we're receiving, it's going to be a dark, the darkness that is going to cover America and go and sweep through the earth. Okay, because you don't just have crimes and atrocities against black African people in America. You have millions upon millions of black African people in Africa that are victims of the same behavior, of colonialism behavior and institutionalized racism and discrimination. You have people in the Caribbean that are millions and millions of black African people that have been victimized and tricked and used as a pawn to fight off and fight against their own kind. All of the things, we know the list. The list is long as the scrolls, okay? And long as the Atlantic Pacific Ocean together. We know the issues. So this is what the ancestors gave me to share with you and the world who will listen to this video as they listen to your speech. By the way, I thought it was amazing. And yes, Joe Biden does deserve to be in prison. He, as opposed to trying to flip it on you and put you to blame and bring up you on false charges. Now they need to use all of those charges they were going to throw on you against him. And by the way, Donald Trump, I heard you mention many times in your speech about how much your family has suffered. What I would like for you to try to do is think about the suffering of black African people, how we had to suffer. Many of us all our life, that's all we know is suffering. We were born to suffer. This is what some of us feel and believe, and some of us have lived it. So I know that it may have been an overwhelming time for you and your family, but I would like for you to just take a moment to think about how long black African people had to suffer because of this mentally ill, sick behavior called white supremacy. I call it white dependency, and racism and discrimination. So I wanted to say that as well, that I think that's something, that you and others should really sit down and think about. And I can only imagine, how much they turned up, but I want you to stop and think for a minute that this is actually black people's life every day. The turned up mode. So I don't want to be too long-winded, but I wanted to follow up this video with these sentiments that the ancestors gave me to share with you. By the way, this video I recorded it 2 weeks ago. Yes, when I heard your speech, I don't know what date that you did this speech. I didn't pay attention to that earlier on YouTube. But if it was a month ago, I didn't see it when you first did it. I saw it late. So, like I said, I saw it like the middle of June. I watched this, and I thought it was amazing. And just to hear all of the criminality from I was getting ready to say Hillary, from Hillary Clinton to Bill Clinton to Joe Biden to the Bush administration. I mean, like, it just goes on and on and on. And these people, they never serve any time. But the slightest little thing we do, you got people like foaming at the mouth at us about we'll go to jail or we'll put you in jail. But when it's the other way around, and when it's these gangsters, thugs, okay, criminals that violate us, nothing, where's the justice there? See? So, very interesting stuff. Very interesting times, and I knew that you were not going to jail. Had I been able to be on YouTube, had my channel never been illegally shut down, my YouTube channel with over 1,000 videos that I spent thousands of dollars to build, and over a 3.5 year period was shut down last June, around the 22nd of June, illegally for false copyright infringement, okay, which all of it was hacked and illegally shut down. But had it not been shut down, I would have immediately got on, did a video and threw it up on my channel. I didn't have a channel right then. I just put my channel back up now, maybe a couple of weeks or whatever. So I would have did a video. Actually, I had the channel up, but it wasn't like working with my schedule to do a whole lot of recording. So I scratched that. I did have the new channel up, but it wasn't a lot of things up there. But when I saw this, I said, I have to do a reaction video to that speech that Donald Trump gave, because it needs my reaction. Me, a native New Yorker, born and raised in Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Donald Trump, a native New Yorker, born in Queens, So, like, me personally, the way I see it, DT, they jealous of you, okay? They fear you and they're jealous of you. See? That's what it is. They're fearful and they're jealous. And they're a bunch of criminals. They don't, believe in following the rules. You know better than me. I'm not going to do a video and act as though I know all of the political moves that these people, these demons are making and not making or whatever. I don't know. And I'm not trying to sound like anything that I don't agree with Donald Trump and his politics. I will let people know immediately. That's who I am and how I am. So I'm not saying I agree with everything about Donald Trump, because I don't. Well, especially when it comes to the fact that he did absolutely nothing for reparations when he got into office. So I don't agree with that at all. But if you get a second go around at it, this is the message that was given to me to share with you. It would be the worst decision ever, like the lowest level of critical thinking decision that you could make, to just ignore the pink elephant in the room, which is reparations now. Reparations is justice. okay, for Black African people. So, on that note, I'm signing off. Effective immediately. Effective immediately. All the atrocities that we had to deal with there in America, the bombing of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the bombing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the MOVE organization, the lynchings, the murders, the rapes, the mutilation and maiming, the slander and libel. The slander and libel against Black people, Black African people's credit. The discrimination and deprivation against Black people, Black African people for gainful employment, sustainable employment opportunities. Discrimination for Black people, Black African people who were forced to work in hostile work environments, who were forced to be a victim of sexual harassment to keep their job. The weaponizing of the police department against Black African people. The non-protection of the law, under the law, towards and against Black African people, being treated like a refugee in their own country. Discrimination against legal representation for Black African people, being denied a lawyer or an attorney for something besides a divorce or for child support or for custody, for civil matters, being denied legal representation. Point blank, period, it. The kidnappings, the mass incarceration, being falsely accused for a crime you just simply did not commit, and being forced to spend over half your life behind bars for a crime that you did not commit. You, meaning Black African people, aka Black people. The weaponizing of the police department against Black African people. The non-protection of the law, under the law, towards and against Black African people, being treated like a refugee in their own country. The land thefts, the commercial property thefts, the stealing of intellectual properties, identity theft, stealing of intellectual properties, the deprivation of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, being punished for freedom of exercising your rights to freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of beliefs, being punished for not being a part of the status quo, for Black African people. The stealing of intellectual ideas and concepts, slogans, mottos, slang, culture. The stealing of ancient artifacts, paintings, sculptures, the desecration of ancient artifacts. For starters, in Egypt, for starters, what is known as Egypt today, what was originally Kemet, and all other areas in and on the planet Earth where Black African people's creative genius has been desecrated, mutilated, destroyed due to greed, jealousy, envy, and hatred, low self-esteem, and lack of innovation. Sculptures, diamonds, gold, platinum, precious metals, precious crystals, precious jewels, the stealing of those from Black African people. Sculptures, diamonds, gold, platinum, precious metals, precious crystals, precious jewels, the stealing of those from Black African people. Being falsely accused for a crime you just simply did not commit, and being forced to spend over half your life behind bars for a crime that you did not commit. You, meaning Black African people, aka Black people. The housing discrimination, the gentrification, the displacement of Black African people. The discrimination in the public school system, the discrimination against Black African people to own businesses, entrepreneurship opportunities, the discrimination in the public school system towards Black African youth, Black African children, Black African young people, our future generation. Having access to entrepreneurship opportunities, the robbery implemented on Black African people to prevent them from obtaining generational wealth. The robbery and prevention to obtain generational wealth for Black people, Black African people. The discrimination in the public school system, the discrimination with owning businesses and having access to entrepreneurship opportunities. The discrimination and deprivation against Black people, Black African people who wanted and want to own their own big medium-sized or large businesses who wanted to own their own businesses. The discrimination in the public school system. The discrimination with owning businesses, entrepreneurship. The discrimination and deprivation against Black African people who wanted to own their own business. The discrimination and deprivation against Black African people who wanted to own their own businesses. The discrimination against Black African people. The discrimination and deprivation against Black African people who wanted to own their own businesses. And entrepreneurship. The discrimination against Black African people to have opportunities to obtain generational wealth. The discrimination against Black people to have opportunities to obtain generational wealth. The robbery and prevention to obtain generational wealth for Black people, Black African people. The list goes on. Effective immediately. Effective immediately. Effective immediately.